What's the point of getting an ADHD or autism diagnosis? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. If you are new to my channel, I'm not sure what platform you're watching this on, but my name is Kojo Sarfo. I am your Hollywood mental health expert, comedian, actor, writer, doctorally prepared mental health nurse practitioner, ADHD Mickey Ficky, friend to all, brother. All right, now I'm just going off into a tangent. All right, y'all. So before I get too carried away, the purpose of this video is to talk about what the point of getting a diagnosis later in life is. A lot of people might say, or I get this question often. I think somebody asked me this question a couple weeks ago, and I got asked this question again recently on Facebook. People ask, what's the point of getting a diagnosis even though I'm 31, 41, 47, 52, 58, 61? And I'll tell you why. Because a diagnosis, now I've explained this before, but some of y'all might be new to my channel. A diagnosis is just a term, a phrase, or a word which better explains the majority of the symptoms or the majority of the behaviors that you exhibit. I should put it that way. I think that's a better way of saying it. A diagnosis is a term that better explains the majority of the behaviors that you exhibit. When you have a diagnosis, you know yourself better. And look, ADHD, autism, these things affect people differently. So we have the DSM-5 criteria for it, and there's a way to get diagnosed for it, so on and so forth. But you are a unique individual. So if you're watching this video right now and you're autistic, or if you're watching this video and you have ADHD, or you could have both. You could have both. These conditions are going to affect you differently from how it affects other people. But knowing that you have this diagnosis is the first step to understanding yourself at a core and a fundamental level. And guys, I gotta stand for this. This is key because when you know yourself, you're able to game plan for certain situations and you can navigate this world a little bit better. So let's say you're undiagnosed ADHD. All right, for the purposes of this scenario, let's just say you have ADHD and autism. You're 35 years old and you're undiagnosed. All right, cool, cool. So you always thought that you have some autistic traits, and you always felt like, oh, I could have ADHD, but you never formally got the diagnosis and you don't identify with these conditions. So you're navigating through life, you're going through life, you're doing your thing, and you're getting frustrated at small things that you do that end up being big things. You get frustrated at yourself and you're not being nice to yourself. You're not giving yourself a break because now you are playing by the neurotypical rules. And that's a big reason why a lot of us who are neurodivergent, we flame out. We get burnt out because we're trying to play with the neurotypical rules and regulations. And you could do this. This is why we have to mask. This is why we adjust ourselves and why we catch ourselves doing things that aren't really what we want to do, but we just feel like, oh, we have to do these things to survive in the world that is not created for us. And it doesn't mean that we can't thrive. Oh, ADHD and autism are not things that have to stop us from living our best life. You can live your best life as a neurodivergent Mickey Ficky. I promise you that. But you first have to know that you have these conditions or you have a particular condition. And that way you can let other people know what type of support and help you'll need. And also you can start to game plan yourself for the accommodations that you might need. And most importantly, put a system together for how you plan to live this life, how you plan to live your life. All right, so go back to that example. You have a 35-year-old, let's just say lady, because that's the majority of the people in my community. 35-year-old woman, ADHD, autism, undiagnosed, identifies with the conditions sometimes, but doesn't have that formal diagnosis or doesn't truly identify with it. You're living your life and you're in and out of relationships. Different people, different faces, same type of issue, right? You get into relationships kind of fast, then it takes you a while to get out of it. At the end of the relationship, you're like, it happened again. You know, the love bombing, um, the whole show. This person has deceived me, and you feel like it gets how do I say it? It gets repetitive, but it gets frustrating when you keep dating the same person over and over, but the faces are changing. I know I'm talking to somebody here, and I have experienced this type of thing too. You're dating the same person over and over and over and over, but the faces are changing. You're having these relationship mistakes, and as you go from one relationship to the next, your confidence and your hope goes on like this. You start to tell yourself that, oh, maybe I'm just somebody who is not, deserving or worthy of love. I just can't seem to get it right. The same person, you go to work, it's hard for you to get to work on time. It's hard for you to stay focused at the job. On top of that, whenever you're in your cubicle, it gets so loud and you're not allowed to put headphones in because your boss just doesn't like that. You don't have a diagnosis. You don't have any type of workplace accommodation. And I know even when you are diagnosed, it can be hard to get these workplace accommodations. So I want to acknowledge that. Or somebody in the comments says, "Hey, even though I have ADHD or I'm autistic, I know, and that's a problem. I'm aware that is a problem. But if you don't even have any idea that you could have these conditions, now you're judging yourself for being frustrated by the loud noises of work. You don't know that this is sensory overload. You don't know what's going on. So now you're just beating yourself up, trying to figure out why everybody else, they seem like they're doing okay. They can, exist in this environment. They're not too bothered by the bright lights and the noises. They're doing just fine. But for some reason, everything just aggravates you. You go home, you're with your family or your kids, and you're just a bit snappy. You're easily irritated. Everything is just annoying. Sensory overload. It may have started at work, it carries over at home. And now, people don't like being around you. Your kids might not want to be around you. Your spouse might not want to be around you. All of this is happening, and you don't know why. All of these things are happening. You don't know why. We're your friends. You might be falling out with your friends. When you have ADHD, we do this thing where it's out of sight, out of mind. So you might forget that your friends exist. Not that you want to ghost your friends, but if you don't either pin your friend's name to the top of your iMessages, that's something that I do to help myself not forget. Or if you don't set reminders on your phone to check in with your people, you might forget. Time blindness. Time escapes us so fast. I wear this watch. I don't know what for, because the time just seems to escape me. But I know I have ADHD. It's not an excuse. It's just an explanation. So I'm aware of the fact that time goes by faster than I think. So I'm able to account for it. Fake clocks around the house with times that are in the future. I do that to my car as well, just to make sure that I give myself that sense of urgency. All right, so using the example that we've been using in this video, if you are that 35-year-old woman, undiagnosed ADHD and autism, and you're living your life like this, you're having a mask to keep your friends, the friends that you do have, at some point something very interesting happens. All of the energy that you've been using to mask, you start to run out of it. And then you become sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, you got two options. You can keep pushing, even though you're at like 3%. Keep pushing. You're going to burn out, but hey, what can we do? You keep pushing, you keep pushing, and you keep pushing. And you know that at some point, that car is going to run out of gas. Or you can make that return back to yourself and start that process of unmasking. And I don't want to get too deep into unmasking because that's his own video. I've made videos about unmasking. Probably have to make more, but that's his own video. But it's important to have a diagnosis to sum up everything, because when you know, oh, I have autism. Oh, wow, that explains why it's hard for me to read social cues. And when people are talking to me and they're trying to naturally let the conversation, taper off and end, I don't know. So people might think that I'm annoying. I'm not trying to annoy them. It's not your fault if you do this in social situations, but it's helpful knowing that you have a condition that makes it hard for you to gauge what's going on, right? So that way we can be kinder to ourselves. And regardless of whatever mental health condition you have to keep in mind that our brains, the way they come, our brains, when they come with the factory settings that we've been programmed at birth, our brains tend to go for the negative. So whatever negative beliefs we have about ourselves, or whatever negative things that happen to us that reinforce those negative beliefs that we have about ourselves, we tend to really hold on to those. And it's really hard to think positive. Our brains are not wired for positivity. We look for negative. That's just how our brains are made. I don't know why. I wasn't the person who created brains. That's how things are. So it's important to have a system, for how you decide to live your life, and know that you have certain conditions. It's going to allow you to be nicer to yourself. And the older I've gotten, the harder I've made an intentional effort to be nice to myself. And I'm somebody who, I motivate myself through failure, and I push myself really hard sometimes. And it was a struggle for me to talk kindly to myself, talking to myself the same way I'll talk to a friend. It doesn't come natural to me, but it's not an excuse. I still have to learn how to do it. These are things that I tell patients all the time, but then when it comes to me, I'm like, nah, it's pointless. But it's not pointless. These are very important things. So when you're thinking about, whether to go get checked out for ADHD or autism, keep these things in mind. And look, I know some people, they'll go online and do a online test to see if they have ADHD or autism, and they decide to identify with that condition without getting it confirmed by a professional. Seeing how expensive things are in the United States, I'm not sure where y'all are watching this video from, but I'm here in the United States, and I live in Los Angeles, which happens to be one of the most expensive cities in a country where things are already generally very expensive. So I know how difficult it can be to get a diagnosis just based off of how much these things cost. And I'm talking about autism specifically here, and also for ADHD. Maybe we'll have a separate video talking about how to go about getting diagnosed. That's a question I've gotten quite often, and I got the answer for y'all on that. But some people decide to do the online tests, and they're like, okay, all right, I'm going to identify with this condition, and I don't have to go get formally diagnosed by a psychologist because I don't have the $5,000. I always say that if you can get a professional to verify and confirm your diagnosis, even better. But if you can't, I completely understand. Given the state of the economy, and just, from a practical perspective, I get it. I get it. I get it. Nothing more to say on that. I completely get it. But if that's the route that you choose to go, now that you've identified with, let's say, autism, you're a lot kinder to yourself. You're not pushing yourself to play by those neurotypical rules. You're not holding yourself to that super high standard, which is going to prevent that burnout. It's going to give you more energy. And if you want to unmask and start that process of returning back to yourself, and or figuring out who you really are, you now have more energy to do this. So I think there's still a lot of benefit to pursuing a diagnosis. I don't know, my stomach is growling. It's super late, almost midnight. I'm making this video. My stomach is growling. It doesn't make any sense. But there's still a lot of benefit to pursuing a diagnosis later in life. And I don't think that you can ever be too old to get a diagnosis. The older you get, sometimes I think the diagnosis can be even more beneficial, because excuse me, as you get older in life, life tends to get a bit harder. We become more set in our ways. As you get older, you start to take medications. You know, your bones start to creak, your back starts to hurt. You need Advil PM to sleep. I'm calling myself out here. I gotta take Advil PM with some trazodone. I'm 31. I'm in good shape, but I have a 31-year-old back. I'm becoming an unk now. But yeah, as you get older, you become more set in your ways, and it can be harder to make adjustments, and it can be harder to, shift your perspective. Sometimes we become locked in to our mental mindset, which is not good. But these things weren't taught to us at a formative age, so we have to learn it right now. So just keep in mind that it's never too late. Like that one song by 3 Days Grace. It's not too late. It's never too late. It's never too late to get a diagnosis, and even just identifying with a diagnosis can help you be so much more nicer to yourself, and that's going to be the catalyst for you getting your life back on track. So, yeah, I think I made all my points. I think I made all my points here. So yeah, if you're watching this video and you feel like getting a diagnosis is the next step, just understand that, like I said, it's not too late. It's never too late. And either way, just don't be too hard on yourself. I think that I've been making an intentional effort to not only tell my friends, family, patients, but also just reminding myself that as well. Because we are all human beings worthy of love, attention, and respect. So we ain't gotta be too hard on ourselves. None of us are gonna make it out of this life alive anyway. So I guess we can just have fun. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you've enjoyed this video, I really appreciate your attention. I'm not sure what platform you're watching this on, but I really appreciate your attention. It's been 5 years for me that I've been doing this content creation thing. We're taking the long form much more seriously now. So you will see me a lot more on YouTube, on Facebook long form. We're gonna be dropping skits. There's so much that's coming up, and I'm excited for all of it. So I can't wait to take that next step on this journey with you all. Go ahead and use the comment section to let me know your thoughts. Also, check the description, for information on how to join my free Discord, how to join the Patreon if you want to book a one-on-one session with me. And as it relates to taking patients, I have my practice manager. She should be coming on soon, so we may be able to take patients on for ADHD and autism and so on and so forth. But I want to make sure we get that straightened out before I start to promote that, because I want to make sure that I can deliver on whatever I'm talking about and not just be talking to be talking, because I do that sometimes. So that's it for this video. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. A lot of people care about you, and I'm one of them. Until next time, take care.